Dirt Trax is sponsored by Can-Am, the ride says it all. Polaris, the world leader in off-road innovation. And by Yamaha, conquer outdoors.
In case you missed it, here's a recap of our adventure from last week on Dirt Trax TV.
We're going to Costa Rica, and Luke and I were just, to say we were excited would be an understatement.
I've never been anywhere quite this exotic. We really wanted to do a trip to show up every other trip we've ever done. We got to see a lot of countryside through the views and the vistas we were seeing. We could see so far away, but it was just spectacular, the whole ride. And now, part 2 of our Costa Rica adventure.
Some of the most technical riding here in Costa Rica, I would say, is the washouts that we experienced. Because you're going up the side of mountains that are, they could be 500 meter, 1,000 meter mountainside, there's a lot of rainwater coming down. It's rainforest in certain areas, so you do get a lot of rain at certain times of the year, and it really trenches out these uphill climbs. We hit one that it's the longest uphill climb I've ever done in a side-by-side. The only thing I could compare it to would be climbing a mountain on a snowmobile.
The very end of it, the last section, was another huge washout. AJ was ahead of me and he got into it and got a little held up, but he was able to make it through on his own. I got into the washout and unfortunately got kind of stuck where I couldn't go forward and couldn't go back.
Sometimes the younger one is the wiser one. But when Luke came through at 5 inches wider, just that small amount, 5 inches, really set the ability and skill level apart there. You just couldn't make it. So he had to put some wheels in a trench, got a little stuck, and I came back, walked down the hill. We heard that we could hear the tires spinning, so we knew that he was in a bit of trouble. And we came back down the hill and just sort of walked each other through that section. You'll have to go back further, I think. You might be able to straddle it if you go back a long ways.
The nice thing about riding here with Moto Adventures is that you don't have to ride that section of trail if you're not able to. If you're not capable of that type of riding, there's a bypass. Lewis knew a way around it if we wanted to. Of course, AJ and I like to push things, so yes, we did. We made it out of there. I got the wheels back on the ground and got all 4 of them clawing back up the hill. And we ended up at our little lunch stop for day 2.
We're about not quite 2/3. Yeah, not quite 2/3 of the way through the day. It's been a long one.
It'll be worth it when it ends at the beach.
Yeah.
You're gonna flop down on the beach and pass out.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
It's just a crazy country.
After lunch on the second day, we went for some riding, but we couldn't meet the truck, which is the one that fueled us, all the racers on the dirt bikes. The distance that we had to cover by that time, it was pretty long, about 80 kilometers, something like that. I wasn't sure if my bike was gonna do it all the way to the coast. So I was pretty concerned about finding some fuel in different spots or small villages.
Lewis was super excited to take us to a river crossing that he knew of, and it was, he was talking the whole day about how he didn't know if the water would be too high and if we'd be able to make it. So AJ and I were kind of like, well, I hope we make a good choice here, make good choices. When he stopped to look for some gas, he asked the local guy at the supermarket, the variety store, how the river was. And the guy said that somebody had crossed with a little Honda 125 just the night before. And immediately I'm like, well, that's super easy. If you can do it on a Honda 125, you can do it in pretty much anything. You probably do it on a scooter. So we thought, let's go do it. Let's go find this awesome river crossing and we'll just do it.
Back home, we have lots of river crossings. It's something that we're very used to. But here in Costa Rica, the rivers are definitely bigger and wider than they are back home. So Lewis took us to this one river crossing that would ultimately lead us to our hotel for day 2.
I don't think this is the way we have to go, but Lewis wants to show us crossing this river, so we're gonna cross the river. Provided we can find a place to get into the river. Lewis found a good spot for us to cross that we could drive with the current and still end up on some hard land. And he went across on his Kawasaki dirt bike and he made it through no problem.
So Luke and I went across. It was fairly easy, just keep your momentum, go with the river current. But as typically happens, we wanted to go back across again, get some more shots, and just you know, continue playing in the water because we've been fairly warm that day.
As with so many of these stories, as we're riding and shooting for dirt tracks, our intrepid camera guys said, okay, you got to go back through the river and cross it again so we can get another shot. I'm like, well, how hard can that be, right? Made it through once. And it was a lot harder than it was the first time because I approached the water wrong. Lots of times at home, we ride up the current to try and avoid being pushed back down. Here, you have to start upstream and go with the current, and I didn't do that. At one point, the vehicle was still running. The water was running over my lap in the RZR, and it was still running, but I wasn't moving. The wheels were just spinning up in the water like I was a boat. And then the water hit the belt, and that was it.
I guess Luke got the belt wet, so it's not going anywhere. I just came across the old 900S, a little bit less horsepower, but it's solid.
He got stuck because he was fighting with the water. I had the same feeling when I crossed the bike. You saw me, I start letting the bike go the same way the water is pulling. Otherwise, if you fight the bike, you drop it.
I felt like a country and western movie. There was guys coming in on horses, people with cattle pulling a wagon coming in. There was a family just playing in the water. It was something totally different from back home, and I won't forget that. It was very cool. We just had a little bit further to go from the river to get to our hotel. It was fairly easy riding, and when we pulled into Maria Brava, which was the hotel for day 2 and 3, we were all very welcoming to see the ocean, to see the beautiful sunset that was setting just as we pulled in.
And by the time we got there, we were all tired. It was 150K on my odometer. I was exhausted. We'd had more fun than I've had in a single day almost ever. We'd driven some trails that I never would have tried had I not been with a guide. I'd done some things I'd never done before and seen country I'd never seen before. So it was a great, great day and a great way to end it at the beach.
Dirt Trax is sponsored by Princess Auto, a unique world of equipment, tools, and more.
We had some really interesting extracurricular activities planned for day 3. Because Moto Adventures is dirt bike and side-by-side tours, and AJ and I used to ride dirt bikes a lot, we thought, well, why don't we incorporate riding dirt bikes into part of this tour? It'd be the first time in almost 15 years that I'd ridden a dirt bike. So things could go really bad, but it could also go really good and be fun. Unfortunately, AJ got a little sick at the end of day 2, and day 3, he just wasn't up to riding dirt bikes, so he stayed back and was gonna try and sleep it off. And that was sad because it would have been a really good time and we would have had fun as a group. You know, fortunately, Lewis was available and pumped to take us out on a dirt bike tour. He was gonna guide us, and he guided me, and we went out together. I got on a KTM EXC 250, which was a bike I'd never ridden. It was the first 2-stroke I've ridden in almost 20 years.
Luke and I were gonna go out, but I had been given a gift from my family when I left, and unfortunately I came down with strep throat. I could feel it during day 1, and day 2 it got worse. Day 3 I felt terrible, so I told the guys, I said, I'm gonna try to sleep this off. You guys go and do the dirt bike experience. So I was sad to not be able to do that, but I was knowing that I needed to take some time to rest so that I could do the adventure we had planned for later on in the day.
We just headed up again into the mountains. It's where everything happens, in the mountains. Did some dirt roads so that I could get a feel for the bike and kind of remember how to ride one. And Lewis also wanted to kind of judge my ability before he took me anywhere technical.
When the ride began on the 3rd day, I knew that the first thing I should do is begin with a very easy trail, beautiful scenery, and just to see what were the abilities of the riders.
It was so much more fun than I thought it was going to be than I remember it being, and now I want to buy a dirt bike. After we'd ridden on the easy trail for a bit on these dirt roads, Lewis said he thought that I was able to go down some more technical stuff and try some more technical trails. The thing about technical trails here in Costa Rica is that technical can mean anything from like just kind of a rough trail to ridiculous washouts. And I didn't know what he had planned. Trail Lewis picked was looked pretty easy in the beginning. It was downhill, of course, everything here is down or up, but it just looked like a rough trail. And as we continued on down the trail, it got more and more technical, and there was bigger and bigger washout tracks down the middle of it, and more slippery clay kind of showed its face. And I was kind of second guessing myself about how I was going to be able to do this. And I tried some things that I was nervous about doing because it'd been so long since I'd ridden a dirt bike. I just wasn't sure of myself, but he was confident that I would be able to do it after watching me ride for a bit. And sure enough, I was crossing these washouts and wheeling over stuff, and it was just so much fun. Way more fun than I was expecting it to be. And we rode for a couple hours out there and up and down this trail that was really technical. And then we decided it was time to head back, have some lunch, get cleaned up, and head out for our afternoon adventures.
Dirt Trax is brought to you by MBRP Performance Exhaust. Lightweight performance.
Our final adventure here in Costa Rica was probably the most typical Costa Rica type thing to do of all the things we had done. And it was a zipline canopy tour, which seems like something people do here that's really popular. And I'd never done zipline anything before, let alone a canopy tour. I'd never even done a zipline in my life. And I thought, how nerve-wracking can this possibly be, right?
Canopy tours, we have some back home. We have canopy tours where you walk, and we have zipline tours back home, but they're not to the same level as they are here in Costa Rica. The Costa Ricans, they do it on a grander scale. It's much bigger and much more impressive because you're in the rainforest. I'm all strapped up, ready to go. Should be fun. I think the camera guys are more nervous than us.
Yes.
Don't drop the camera. I was amped up, excited to do it, and was really looking forward to it. I could tell that that Luke was a little bit nervous, and maybe one of the camera guys was a little nervous as well. So it was fun. We were all excited and amped up about it.
The guys at the zipline place, they were really good. They were funny. They were very professional. They gave you all the confidence in the world. And it wasn't until they hooked me on that little tiny pulley on top of a metal cable going into the woods where I couldn't even see where it ended up. But I just had to trust they knew what they were doing. And the first zip line was just a blast. It was different than I thought, less scary, more confidence inspiring. And we did 12 zip lines all the way down the mountain.
It's a lot less scary than I thought it was going to be. I was ready to be just terrified, but actually once you're sitting kind of down in the harness and you get moving, you just kind of feel like you're just hanging out. It's not really a big deal.
The zipline tour was nothing short of impressive. I mean, the guides on it were super knowledgeable. They all spoke English and were very friendly. It was cool because you had 12 total zip lines that you ran. Some of them were short, some of them were long, some of them were a little bit slower, and some of them were extremely fast. It was cool. There was one opportunity where you could go backwards or you could go upside down, and so I went upside down because I was like, hey, we're here, let's do it, this will be great. And it was kind of freaky hanging upside down at about 130 feet over top of nothing but trees and rainforest floor, but super fun. It was an amazing experience, and I mean, if you're here in Costa Rica, you should do something like this because it not only gives you an adrenaline experience and an adrenaline rush, but it also gives you amazing views of both the rainforest and out over the coast.
This trip in Costa Rica, we had wanted to be the most epic adventure we'd ever gone on with Dirt Trax, and I think we succeeded in a big way.
This world is nothing short of amazing, and being here in Costa Rica helps you to realize that even more. It's amazing that we can come here and ride side-by-sides and go ziplining and ride dirt bikes and, you know, play in the ocean and just see a different way of life. This is something that you need to put on your bucket list. If you haven't heard about Moto Adventure tours, you need to look it up. You need to come here, you need to do this because this is not a normal experience on a side-by-side. This is something incredibly unique and you're not gonna find it anywhere else.
Closed captioning of Dirt Trax is sponsored by Triton Trailer, built for adventure.
If you've got a family, you know just how fun being in the outdoors is with them. Kids love to play, and what better way to show them the great outdoors than a ringside seat? I've been doing it since I was a kid, and it served me well. And now that my kids are growing up, they want to do what Daddy does and bring their friends along for the ride too. Today I've got my beautiful wife Lindsay out, along with my eldest daughter Addison and her friend Easton. We decided to take the brand new Polaris RZR 900 4-seater out for a test, and I thought what better way to show you its versatility than to bring the whole family along for a ride. We've already accessorized this RZR with a bunch of cool pure Polaris gear, but it was focused on being a family-friendly build, and we didn't do any performance-centered tweaks, so it's as good as stock in that department. I'm gonna load up a few goodies for the kids, and we're gonna show you just how good this RZR 4 is for you and the family. Now, it's important to note that my wife Lindsay is never happy to stay in the passenger seat all day long. I mean, this girl can drive just about anything with a motor, and I do want to get her opinion of just what she thinks of this RZR 900 later on today. So I'm gonna have to give up the driver's seat and let her take over, or I will be hearing about this forever. All right, so do you guys want to get going now? You want to jump in the side-by-side? You guys like going really slow, like grandma style slow, right? No? Want to go fast?
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the trail, okay? Okay, come on, let's go. Get your helmets on. It's getting warm out, huh, guys? There we go. The 904 is an incredible vehicle. The 4 of us and extra accessories, this thing is still incredibly peppy. Never at a loss for power even when climbing, and it really handles like a 2-seat RZR, sporty and precise. Now the back seats are not cavernous, and this is pretty much a complaint across the board of all 4-seat sport side-by-sides from any manufacturer. Sure, these kids have ample space, but you're not gonna keep a full-size adult happy back here for too long. You'll need to account for the extra length of the 4, and some smaller trails will require a bit of school bus steering wheel action. But I haven't found a place that we want to go that we haven't been able to get. Suspension compliance out back is more than acceptable, and up front it's plush while keeping the steering tight and predictable. The kids don't seem to have many complaints, but one thing I noticed quickly is that all the chattering coming from the back of this bus, they're having a blast. What was your favorite part about riding in the side-by-side in the RZR?
The bumpy.
You like the bumpy?
Yeah.
Yeah? Was it pretty cozy in the back seat though? Did you have lots of room?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, well, what about the steep hill? Did you guys like the steep hill?
Yeah.
How do those gummies taste with those dirty fingers?
Yum.
Yum? Cool. Well, you guys go back, you go swimming, and Mommy's gonna take me for a spin. Let's go. To the front door now. Let's go see your mom. All right. Remember how I said that my wife wasn't going to go all day without getting behind the steering wheel? I knew that lunch was going to be the point where I relinquish control and she takes over.
I came from a family who was definitely into the motor world. From a young age, I remember being with my dad on his machine in the front and growing up to being behind him and then being able to be on my own. It was definitely a blessing to have that foundation before I married a gearhead myself. Dating AJ, I had one of 2 choices. One was to be in the passenger seat and always hang on, or to take my own and grab the wheel myself, and he was very much an encourager for that. I'd have to say my favorite thing about the RZR today was how it handled. When it handles that easy, you almost want to drop your hand because you just kind of want to fly solo. On the straight stretch, you know, I could just give it like no other, but obviously slowing down a little bit in the corners there, but I felt very comfortable when I was riding. When we would go over a bump, it didn't seem to impact my ability to handle the vehicle very much, and it actually felt rather plush. When I've ridden other vehicles before, suspension is always very important. When I've gotten off, kind of felt a little stiff, but I didn't have any of those issues with the RZR today. I'd say with life and how hectic it can get these days, taking time to be with your family, with your loved ones is vital to your overall health and the health of your family. So being able to come together, to be together and to be out in the wilderness like this, you know, just to set that time aside for each other really brings you together as a family. If there's a family out there who's interested, you know, in the market, looking for something like this, you know, they're not too sure yet, I would have to stop them and I would have to say, this is the vehicle for you.
I think Lindsay may have enjoyed driving the RZR 900 4-seater just a little bit too much because she wasn't going to give up the driver's seat.
Dirt Trax Television has been sponsored by Polaris, the world leader in off-road innovation. Can-Am, the ride says it all. And by Arctic Cat. Share our passion.
Like the video you just saw? Do you want to see more? Click the subscribe link and add the Dirt Trax channel, and you're going to see a whole lot more great content.